Hey there, it's Beth, and I've got a super easy mixed media collage type of thing that I wanted to share with you how you could easily do in your notebooks. I'm first going to go ahead and make my own collage element using some stamps. So the trick with this is to use an ink that is either the archival ink, which means that it's not going to react with water, or the VersaFine ink. I chose to use the VersaFine ink this time around because my archival ink pad is really big and it's a little too big to handle on this stamp pad that I'm going to use. So right now I'm grabbing the VersaFine ink in black. It is a very, very dark, rich black ink. It is waterproof and it happens to be like one of my absolute favorite inks to work with, especially when working with mixed media. So you can see why I like this stamper thing is because if I'm not getting a good impression, I just have to keep flipping it back and pressing where the impression is not to my liking. So I did all of that and I'm going to put my stamp away. I didn't feel the necessary need to clean it due to the fact that I had pretty much stamped most of the ink off. I am stamping on a pretty decent quality paper here, just because it's easier to work with. It doesn't tear as easily. And I'm setting the ink, making sure that it is completely dry so that when I do start using it in the collage, it's not going to get all over my fingers and start to smear. So now that's dry, I'm just ripping it apart because I prefer ripped edges when I'm doing collage, depending on the material, but usually I like my edges to be ripped, so I'm just going ahead and ripping the paper on all of the edges. And then I'm going to grab my notebook. So I'm testing out to see where I like it, and I think that's a good spot, but I'm not going to start with that. And I apologize that you can't see the very bottom of my notebook. I should have moved it up some more. I'm using Matte Medium by Liquitex. It's a liquid matte medium, so it's thin and can be used as a glue. My only regret here is that I should have gone upstairs and grabbed one of my good paintbrushes. I had this paintbrush, I think it came who knows from where, um, but it like sucked in all of my matte medium. It was pretty much a nightmare to work with. So after this project, I actually ended up throwing it out just because I was not happy. So that little brown piece with the black paint and white gesso, it's actually white and black gesso that I just did some mark makings for something else that I was working on. And so I just ripped that off and went ahead and added some more things. So I'm using the Dina Wakley, just checking, yes, the Dina Wakley collage book. And I'm just ripping and collaging. In the end, you don't really see all of this, but that's okay. Um, it's the process that really counts, you know? So it's the time that you're spending doing this that really matters, and not so much of like what you finally see as the outcome. In the end, I really did love the outcome of everything, and yes, a lot of it did get covered up, but that's okay, because that's what collaging is about, right? You're just collaging pieces together to make something pretty that fits you. So now you can see her face takes up most of the notebook. I am working in a standard size notebook. Sometimes I really prefer to work in a standard size traveler's notebook just because it's smaller. It's a smaller scale. It's not as intimidating. This is why I highly recommend my traveler's notebooks when you're first starting out with like art journaling and stuff, just because they are on a smaller scale. And when you have a bigger art journal notebook, it can tend to, you know, have you staring at a blank page going, what do I do now? And you don't want that. I'm done with all of my collaging. I'm trying to move these paintbrushes somewhere. Apparently my desk is a hot mess. And then I'm going to go ahead and just dry this with my heat gun. I'm currently using a Ranger heat gun. They are a little hard to find right now, but this does happen to be one of my favorite heat guns just because it's a low forceful heat. It's not like a super high force of heat coming at your project, and so you have a little bit more control of your papers not getting burnt or anything like that, because that is a real possibility with a heat gun. So again, totally unprepared for what I've got going on. So I put white gesso down, and then you saw me dump out some water that I used to clean my brushes in from a water bottle because I didn't have any other water down here. And I'm just putting a very thin, watered down gesso on this notebook just to kind of push everything back a little bit and bring some cohesiveness to it. And truly, that is pretty much all I did for this page. I thought about adding some color, but I felt like I had enough color with the Be Enough up there at the top, and I really wanted the lady to be in black and white. And then I did a second coat just to push it back even more. So the first coat I made sure it was dry. And then you can see I'm using my fingers because the Be Enough, it felt like it was getting covered too much, and I needed that to be not as covered. So I just pushed the gesso with my fingers to move it from that area so it's not as covered with the gesso. And then I'm drying everything once again. I will tell you that heat guns do make life a lot easier when you want to just sit down for 10-15 minutes and art journal, because you don't have to wait for your stuff to dry. You can just keep moving. And sometimes that's the best thing that can happen, because when you keep moving, you don't lose your inspiration. Sometimes when you come back to a project, you can lose the inspiration. Last thing I'm doing here is I have some art stones. They're by Prima, and these are the mini art stones, so they're super tiny, and I'm just adding it towards the bottom here to give my book some texture. Well, my art collaging here, some texture. This is not something you have to do, but it is a lot of fun to do. I like to add different types of texture to my pages, and you'll get a better look of the texture here at the end with the photo. So I'm just using a heavy, clear, matte medium to stick these on with a paintbrush. The glue, as long as you get your paintbrushes in water and cleaned off as soon as possible, they will be fine with this. And that is all. I hope you enjoyed this page, and I hope you'll check out my shop at rockyournotebook.com. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.
Yes, come on, shorty, let's go. Girl, I see you over there in the corner of the dance floor, and I know you're acting shy, looking at the corner